Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head up when I act, head up, that's a fact. Never looking back, I'ma keep myself on track. Keep my head up, staying strong, always moving on. Feel I don't belong, tell my thoughts to move along. Push myself to be the best, die with no regrets. Live with every breath, see my message start to spread. And I had so many dreams, then you hit your teens. Life ain't really what it seems, try to find out what it means. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and a very happy Sunday to all our viewers and participants today. Thank you for joining us on a Sunday, nearly brunch time, nearly lunchtime. We are so happy today. We have a special guest with us. Alhamdulillah, Dr. Mastura Mahamed from UPM. And I do know her. I follow her around, on Facebook. She's very active and she does a lot of activities, and especially for research. We are so happy to work with her, to talk about today's title, which is research mapping for thesis. How are you doing, Dr. Mas? Are you good?
Yes, I'm good. Thank you, Dr. Anita. So I'm glad to be here as well. So I hope that this collaboration will be a fruitful one.
Okay, all right. So let's move on to, I'm just going to share your slide, I would like to invite Dr. Mas now. Can you tell us, among the problems that I notice, from my own experience, when we don't have an overview of the process of the whole chapters, of the thesis writing chapters, sometimes it becomes a problem, when you want to link your idea from one chapter to another, right? So go ahead, Dr. Mas, come and share with us, even from your own experience and how you have been guiding your students. Go ahead.
So, Assalamualaikum and good morning, everyone. So, the reason why I come up with this workflow, I call it a workflow, or some people call it a process. Basically, it is the same. So, it is to provide an overview of each chapter of your thesis so that you can see the consistency of the different chapters, right? The issue that I have with students, particularly even during my time, right? We are so focused on finishing up a particular chapter and moving on to the next without taking time to see the link, or to see the connectivity, or to see the streamlining of the elements that we have put, let's say, for example, from chapter 1 to chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4 to chapter 5 to establish some form of consistency. This is an important process because when you are not successful in linking and providing consistency across the chapters, you will not be able to, again, provide an outcome that will answer your research question or research objectives. And that will cost you your viva. Right. So I think the overview is to help you to plan your progress better in writing your thesis. Not to be too overwhelmed, focusing on the content without constantly reminding yourself that you have to be consistent with your elements that you want to discuss in different chapters. Yeah, that's I think that's the aim of this research mapping. So we go to the next slide. Okay. So, and then I think it is important for students to understand these four domains, particularly your philosophical worldviews, strategies, research designs, and methods. This one, right? This one, it is a particular process that we will go through when you write these different chapters, right? Why I said to you this is important? This is important because item number 1, which is philosophical worldviews, should match your research design and research methods, should also be implied with the strategies that you will use in your research data collection, right? So the form of your inquiry, whether it is ethnography, let's say for example, or phenomenology. So these particular domains, the 4 domains that it is displayed here, should be something that is parallel to each other. Because at the end of the day, your research question, again, should be able to be answered by the data that you have in chapter 4 and be concluded in your chapter 5. Right? So, right, the research mapping will be able, if you do it correctly, will be able to help you to remind yourself your research question, whether it's relevant to the research design selected, hence produce the outcome that you want. That certainly should match your RQ. So the research design or the research, the chapter 3 is just the vehicle for you to manifest your research question and research objective. So that is why these 3 items, namely your research question, research design, and research outcome, should be parallel to each other, should be responding to each other. Right? Why is this important? Because this is part of the planning process. How do you plan your different chapters? And this overview process will make sure that each chapter is connected to one another. Why is it important? Because you need to justify your research. So the justification process lies on the different evidences that you collected throughout your research process. Right? Why is it important? Right? Once you identify specific research problems, you are also able to identify specific research question to address the problem. Right? And then after that, you will be able to identify the research design appropriate for your study, along with to easing the data collection process and analysis procedure. Okay, so why is this important? Because selection of this specific. So you have to remember what I said. The key term here is specific, right? You have to make sure that whatever procedure that you have or you have take or you will take if you are in the earliest stage should be able, right, to match, again, to match and be consistent with your problem statement, research question, objectives, and research design. Because of why? Remember my previous diagram? You want to have an outcome that actually answers your research question. Okay? So why is this important? Again, to build up the consistency and linkages between different chapters. Okay? What I do in my research mapping class usually is to provide templates to students, right? The templates is only usable if you do the work, meaning that you write down, does this portion of my thesis consistent with the previous one and the upcoming one? So the templates are there just as a guideline, but you have to do the work, meaning that the templates will basically guide you a little bit to ensure, I'm using a consistent keyword, for example, or I'm using a consistent way of collecting data that matches my research question, for example, right? Right. So next one. So the phase, because usually the mapping phase, I divide it into 3 phases, right? So first and foremost, you have to know your intent of purpose of your study, right? How do you want to know this? Is by finding out what will be the main problem that you would like to solve by conducting your research, right? And then you have to ask yourself, based on these problems, is it measurable by quantifying or whether it is exploratory, or whether it is a combination of both, right? That's why the first step to understand your research is to understand the problem, whether the problem is quantifiable or exploratory, whether it is combination of both, whether it's experimental. So once you understand that you need to have specific problems that you want to discuss in your research, the rest will be um, easier to go through, right? The rest of the process will be easier to go through because you are already finding out whether the problems are quantifiable or exploratory, or it is a combination of both, or is it experimental, or is it action based. So if it's action based, for example, you will use action research. So you have to basically have specific intent and specific problems first. That's the key to actually moving on with your PhDs or master's study when it comes to thesis writing. I mean, basically, when you talk about research mapping, this technique can also be applied in applying grants, in other forms of research-based documentation, right? But since we're talking about academic thesis, so for the DSG, I focus on academic thesis. But actually, this particular setup can be applied in any research-based conditions, right? And then after you are confirmed and after you are solid with your phase 1, we move on to phase 2 and phase 3, right? Phase 2, we talk about the research design. Remember, right? My diagram from the previous slide, right? And then phase 3 is about connecting the research question, research design, and the analysis. Whether the analysis will later on answering your RO and RQ, right? You see, whatever that I've mentioned in phase 1 is reflected again in phase 3. So the consistency or the connectivity is something that you need to be sure of, right? So for the research mapping, as an overview, right? Usually it will take about usually the preliminary or the early introduction mapping course will take about 2 hours, and then students can decide whether to actually go into coaching for each phase, okay, to go coaching for each page, or let's say for example a separate one for phase 1, another separate one for phase 2 or phase 3, or they want the items to be combined, whereby usually if it's combined, it takes about 4 hours.
Mm, yeah. Okay. While waiting for Dr. Mas to come back, I think it's a good idea to have a separate session, yeah, for each of the phases. And this is among the common issues that many of us are facing, yeah. When you are writing your thesis, you don't have an overview of linking your chapters from one to the final chapter. I do hope Dr. Mas will be back soon. And for those of you who missed the first part of this session, yeah, you should be able to watch the recording right after. Okay, and don't worry because we will give you the link. Yeah, the recording will stay in the DSG. And okay, so Dr. Mas has gone now. I guess it's part of the connection problem. That's all right. What I will do next is I will get the details from her, and I will get the slides, right? And we will definitely organize a webinar with her. And those of you who are interested, you can then register to sign, right? And this is what we are currently doing in the DSG, is getting a lot of thesis coaches to come to the DSG and help out a lot of our members who are stuck and currently don't know where to go, in terms of finishing the thesis. So our webinar, our preview is supposed to be 15 minutes. So it is now coming up to 14. So I do wish all of us the best, and follow our updates next on when is the time for us to do the webinar online with Dr. Mastura. Yeah. Thank you so much for those who attended. Okay, she's coming back. Right, Mas? Yeah, no
Right.
problem.
Sorry
No
for
problem.
the connection issues. I don't know
No
why. It
problem.
suddenly like plop.
Yeah,
Right.
okay, no problem. That's Malaysia, no worries. So anyway, we have seen all your slides, right?
Yeah,
The last
definitely.
slide was your last slide. So I was telling
Yeah.
the audience that after this, what we'll do is we open up registration for the session, right? The paid webinar. I remember you said just now that we can do either the whole thing or we can do phase 1, phase 2, phase 3.
Yep.
So we can give that suggestion, and of course the timing. And many of the members here, Dr. Mas, are very confident or familiar with evening session. So is it okay for you to conduct evening session during weekends? So we will decide later, yeah,
Yeah,
because
we will decide later.
yeah, and also a lot of our members are, some of them are international students, most of them are working adults as well. So if we have it in the evening, a lot more members can join. Yeah. Okay,
All right.
so we are up with our 15 minutes of preview. Thank you
Yeah,
so much,
just
Dr.
in
Mas.
time. Just in
Yeah,
time.
go ahead.
Just in time. Right? The
Yeah, just
15
in time
cut
actually.
off.
Yeah,
Right.
no worries, no worries. And thank you so much for agreeing to be part of the SG team. Yeah, because what we want to do now is to have various people with experts, right? The expertise to come to the SG and share what they have been doing that make them successful with their thesis. And I believe you are one important idol. A lot of people are talking, wow, we're having Dr. Mas. Thank you, Kanita, for bringing Dr. Mas to the SG. Most of them have texted me, so I'm glad that I made the right decision to invite you. Okay, so
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I would like to
right.
thank Kak Anita for this opportunity. I think we have been a long way back in terms of establishing. We know each other quite well actually,
Hmm.
but yeah, for this opportunity, I really thank you for this opportunity and also the upcoming participants. I hope that whatever that I'm going to share in the future will be beneficial for all of you.
Right. Hang on. I think we have this one question which I think is quite important. Can we take this question from Daniel? Does this approach apply for STEM-based research, which is dealing with new materials, science, environmental impact, or AI and ML impact? I think it does, right? I
Yes, it
think it
does.
goes with
Because it
every.
will basically just remind you of your own overview. Because you design your own overview. It
Yeah.
basically, of course, my field is social sciences. So basically, most of the discussion is based on social science or management based items. But of course, like I said, the three phases, you can actually modify them based on your field, because the function of the mapping is just to remind yourself about whether you have written your different parts consistently or otherwise.
Mm,
It's
mm.
just like
True.
a reminding system, and you have to do the work. You cannot expect the template
Exactly.
or the points or the checklist to do the work for you. So this is
Exactly.
not automatic. You have to do it on your own. So
Yeah.
the more diligent you are following this, I'm sure that the aim is for you to not fall off track.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, this is my own opinion, I think once you have decided that in the early phase of your study, it is so easy for you when you are doing your writing to keep referring to that
Yes,
research mapping.
definitely.
Am I right?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Mas. And I believe that the reason why we want to keep the preview short is because the recording will be available in the SG. So those of you who missed the first part, you can come back and rewatch. And then once we open the registration link, you can come and join us for the paid webinar with Dr. Mastura. Okay, everyone? So have a good Sunday ahead, Dr. Mas. Please take some break. I know you're working so hard. Please take some break, and then we'll see you next time when we do the webinar. Okay?
Thank
All
you so
right?
much, everybody. Have a great day ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a good
Bye.
Sunday. Bye, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi.
Salam.